Okay, we are live. Welcome to our Lunch and Learn. I am here with Jeff. Say hi,
Hey
Jeff.
there, Carla.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing good. Really excited to be both on camera with you. I think this is the first time that I'm actually on camera for this series, so I'm really excited to see everyone.
Yeah, well, welcome to being on camera.
Yes.
It's where you belong. I mean, Carla's always in the background, but it's great to have you be a part of this, and I love you taking over some of this production and making it work. I think that's great for us and for all of the viewers, since I'm kind of scatterbrained and you're a bit more organized. So, awesome. And then today we are going to talk about strategic business reviews, which are way better than a quarterly business review. And I think, you know this, Carla, like it's so crucial for our clients. I think this is one of the most impactful things that we do early on, is to work with our clients to make sure that they implement this SBR process. And I was working with one client early in the year, and they just they fought it tooth and nail, like, "Oh, I don't want to do this," and we're going to talk a little bit about the process today. And they were nervous about the process because it's not technical. And so they thought, oh, people are going to reject this. They're not going to like this. It's not going to be interesting for them. And they realized that it was just the opposite, right? And it allowed them, it gave them the space to be able to put up their prices. It's helped them sort of redefine their product in a way that is more relevant to their clients. It makes their clients happier. And and as a result of this work, even though they lost a couple of clients, but their revenue is up 30%. And that's huge, right? Lose a couple of clients and increase your revenue 30%. That's less work
Exactly.
and
That is
more
amazing.
money, right? And that's the kind of thing. If when we focus on the right clients, on the people who like this stuff, then you get more money with fewer clients. So so the thing, Carla, that I see all the time is everybody's talking about QBRs, 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 and I'm a little bit flummoxed, right? Like, why is everybody so interested in doing technical um, business reviews, right? And so my first message, like, if you only watch the first 2 minutes of this, is just stop it, you know, um, stop. And I have to change my slides here, but stop. Maybe I can change slides here. Stop doing technical quarterly business reviews. This is just one of those things that's not helping. Um, Mostly because what we end up doing is boring our clients, right? So they're sitting at the meeting, they show up, but they're not interested in what you're saying. And the reason they're not interested is that they are not technical. The reason that they are hiring you, the reason that they want you to be there, is because they are not interested in IT. So when we go to them and we have these conversations, and the whole time we're talking about tech and IT and tickets and firewall and response time, right? And they're just like, no, I really have to get back to work. How do I make this end? And this is the experience that we see over and over again with our clients. Is that they're used to this sort of talking tech and shouting tech at people, and their clients are not interested in talking tech. That's just not what they're thinking about. And uh, and so the difference is, I talk about this in terms of Joe back when he was running his MSP, and he switched over to really focusing on personal injury attorneys. And he went from tickets and tech and tech and tech and tech to a conversation that's sort of like, hey, this is how our Saga integration helps you find and use case data, or it helps you manage your cases better, or here's how the integration works, or here's how For architects, you're able to connect your printers to your billing software, so you're actually charging for these really expensive uh, prints that you have, that you're doing. And I think one of the key lessons from moving from a technical QBR or TBR or whatever you want to call it is, recently another client, they actually went to this strategic business review, and they were like 15 minutes into it, and they were talking to the technical team, and the technical guy said, "Oh, look, we just can't answer these questions. We need to bring in the CEO. Right? We need to bring in the leader of the company." And that's where you want to be, because the leader, the CEO, the top manager is the one who is making the decisions around spending money on you, spending more money on your services, engaging you for whatever it is that you're doing. It's not necessarily the technical team. So, so you want to have CEO level conversations. You want to be talking to the CEO about how their business is performing. So the way to do that is to get strategic and make it about their business, right? Make it about the impact that your technology is having on the business. Does that make am I making sense, Carla?
No, that makes absolute sense. You know, as someone who's not a technical person, I kind of felt like that person in the slide where the guy was shouting technical jargon and the other guy's
Yeah.
like, make it stop. So this definitely makes a lot of sense, you know. That's why, you know, they hired the IT professionals. They don't want to deal with all the nonsense, the hardware, the software updates, all that nonsense. All they care about is how is me hiring you making me more money, making me more business? And
Yeah,
you're
and they're just
there to
not
be
interested
hired
in
for
that.
that. Yeah, they don't
You
care
know,
about how the tech works. They just want it to
and
work.
And it's funny, I talked to one of the things that we work with our clients is understanding their finances better. And everybody yawns. Oh, they're not interested in finance. And they really want someone else to take that over. They don't want to talk about the intricacies of finance. And it's the same thing for your clients. They don't want to talk about the intricacies of IT. They may love the intricacies of finance. They don't want to talk about the intricacies of um, of IT. So get strategic and talk about what's going on in their business. I'm going to talk a little bit more about how we do that in a second. But I want to talk just to set the stage for an SBR. There are sort of 5 things that you want your SBR to deliver when you're giving an SBR. 5 crucial things. And the first is that it helps you build executive level relationships and build trust with the organization. And that's sort of the point of the story I told a second ago, is this um, bringing in the CEO, because now you're having a conversation that's so critical about the business. You have to have the executives there, and you have to have them opining on where the business is going. And that also shows that you are interested in and understand their business. So another story is someone that we were working with who was complaining that he just lost a client, and and we said to him, well, how often have you been going in to have these strategic business reviews? And he said, well, we haven't done that in probably 2 years. And I said, well, so what was the conversation like when you talked to them? He said, well, I called them up, and we talked about the fact that there haven't been any tickets. And they said, well, look, if there aren't any tickets, why am I paying you? You know, and the point is, like, his answer was, well, you're paying me so that you don't have any tickets. but but because he hadn't been building that trust, they didn't see that. He wasn't having the conversation, so they didn't see that. And he hadn't been talking about the return on investment, or why their business, their technical uh, delivery was improving the business. And so the second thing that an SBR should do is allow you to do that. So rather than talk about tech, and how many tickets and how long and blah, 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 you can talk about how more efficient the business has become. You can talk about how this is improving revenue. You can talk about how you haven't had tickets, how there haven't had breakdowns. And you can even talk about the fact that, hey, the rest of the world is seeing tons of um, outages or cybersecurity issues, and we haven't had any of those outages. We have a couple of our clients who, for their clients, implement CrowdStrike, for example, and their clients didn't have the CrowdStrike blue screen of death recently, because what they've been doing is waiting before implementing the patches. So they're trying the patches on their own computers and then implementing it. So they can go back to their SBRs and say, "Yeah, we're using CrowdStrike because it's this amazing software. However, because we're checking it, you didn't have that problem, because we're making sure that you don't have that problem." So you're pointing out the value of a negative, the value of something not happening, especially when it's happening all around you. Um, so then the third thing it should do is give you and give them direction. So when you talk to them and they say, "Well, we're concerned about revenue," or one client conversation, they were talking to an operator, a factory, and they said that they were concerned about measuring throughput, and they were concerned about measuring the quality of the product going through their their process. Well, I mean, that's a great opportunity for the MSP to come up with IoT type solutions, or monitoring solutions, or even AI type solutions, where you're monitoring the product that's going through and using that to calculate throughput, using AI to determine the quality of the product. Like, there's such a rich area, and they were able to bring in and other vendors who deliver that, who pay them MRR, and who take care of making sure that that stuff gets done. And the MSP ends up just managing the vendor. And
Yeah.
that's huge, right? Because you're giving them, you know now what to do, and what you need to do to make your client happy. Did you want to say something, Carla? I can't see you, by the way, so I have a problem on my screen. So you
No,
have to
no,
like
you're doing great. You're delivering, 1 through 5, and we are going to get to point number 4, I hope.
we get to point number 4, right? And so it allows you to set expectations. What's coming and what's not coming and what's happening. And one of the things that we found, both in terms of updating hardware, in increasing prices, in making changes, is that setting expectations early is crucial. So by going in and saying, "Look, the end of the year we're going to have a price increase," or your hardware is looking like this, and so we're going to give you a budget for how we have to replace the hardware. It's getting old, or we have to update some software. So it's a great opportunity to set those expectations around what is coming. And when you do that in the context of their business needs, then what you're doing is saying, not just, "Oh, it's tech and we're going to update the tech." You can say, "You want this to work better, and here is how we're going to make sure that it continues to work better. Here's how we're going to make sure that we continue to deliver that type of ROI that we've talked about before." And it puts it within the context of their business needs. And then the fifth thing is, it does allow you to increase your footprint or sell more. And this is something that people, either resist or go a little bit too hard on, right? Like there's this tendency to turn business reviews into a sales pitch. But it doesn't need to be a sales pitch to sell more. What you want to do is really talk about their problems. And then you can talk about how you can solve those problems so that you get into that problem solution space. And once you're talking about this is how I solve your problem, this is how you can well, get the problem solved, which is just turning around what I said again. But this is how you solve the problem. Then it's much easier for them to say, oh, I want that. Sell it to me. Whereas if you go in there and say, oh, you need this, you need that, you need the other thing without putting it in the context of their problems, then it just feels like a sales pitch. And that's uncomfortable for most people who are doing the pitch, but it's also uncomfortable for most people who are listening to the pitch. And it ensures that it is not a CEO level conversation. So those are the 5 things that an SBR really should be achieving for you. And I'm just curious, Carla. We've had this for a while and talked about this. Have you seen anything else? Does anything else occur to you? And it's fine if not, but if something does
No,
occur to you,
something does occur to me. One thing that I think the SBR does as well is that it kind of differentiates you from just the IT guy that just comes in and fixes computers to really being like, a consultant having a seat at the table where you both
yes,
are, where you're bringing actual business value to the business owner, and it's much more difficult for any competition to kind of swoop in and just come in with lower prices because you're not just, a commodity at that point.
right. You're
Points from
working.
like, yeah, points 1 through 3 kind of gives you that establishing relationship that, you're there consulting the company and
Yes,
bringing ROI to the business. So when you get to that point 5 and you do, suggest additional services or additional, or you set expectations, you increase your prices, at that point, you're not a commodity. Those things are actual investments that you're making to make the business grow. And I think this is a really key point.
well, that is a really key point, right? And if you look at these images that I had earlier, right? Notice here that they're sitting on the same side of the table.
Yeah.
And when we do these things, we don't want to be on opposing sides. We're not working against each other. We're on the same side of the table as our clients, solving the problem that's out there. And we're bringing the IT expertise. They're bringing whatever other expertise they have. Oh, sorry about that. And so being on the same side, and you're right, that's what turns you away from being a commodity IT provider and makes you a value added member the uh, of the team, right? Or a value
Yes.
adding member of the team. So I think that's a crucial point, and that's you're right that it's kind of buried in 1, 2, and 3 there, but it is something that's very important for people to understand, and that's the reason why I say we've got to stop with these technical business reviews. We've got to stop going in and giving people 400-page reports around here are all the tickets and here's all the information about the IT and here's what's happened. You can leave the report behind and just so they can look at it and say, wow, it's impressive. But that's not the thing that they're interested in. And by talking about the thing that they're interested in, you remove that commodity uh, categorization and you get on the same page, on the same side of the table. So now I want to talk a little bit about how to do this. And we do have a slide deck that takes you through this step by step, and you can use the slide deck as your SBR template. And there are just a couple of things that I want to draw attention to. I'm not going to go through every slide because that would probably bore everybody, but we'll talk about a couple of things. And one of them is, when you open up the slide, when you go in and you're giving a presentation to your client, you want to make this about them. And this seems like a simple thing, but it's something that people miss all the time, right? You're doing a strategic business review for them. So it's their name, not your name. You can put your logo up here, you can have it branded for you, but this is about them. And I always love to put a client image here. You can go to their website because they know their website. So if you take that hero image or you take some imagery from their website and put it in here, then it helps a lot for them to be able to relate to the content. So that first slide, it's just an intro, but you can really set the context that this is about you, the client, not about me, the MSP. And then just quickly through the agenda. So this is kind of the sample agenda that we recommend. And the first part of it is the state of support, right? So you'll do a state of support. This is where we are, but you keep it to 5 minutes. It's a couple of metrics. It's what's going on, and this is where you can kind of own any issues that are there or address anything that needs to be addressed. But it's generally not a very long part of the SBR. The next step of that is really to review their evolving needs, and for a 60-minute strategic business review, this is like half of it. Where you sit down with them, and we have a process that we recommend where you sit down and ask them, what went well, what didn't go so well, what are you concerned about for the future, and then we get them to talk about what would bring them more pride, confidence, and excitement in their business, and that's a great way to structure this because you're really getting into an emotional conversation about their business, and they talk a lot there about what they need, about what's going on, about how to improve the business. And you're not going to be able to address everything, but you can think about how that connects to some of the other things that are happening in the world, that are happening in your business, and start thinking about how you can address some of those needs. The next thing that I like to throw in, and that I think is interesting, is to go in and talk about sort of key trends and updates. So what are things that are happening in the market, right? What things like cybersecurity issues or IoT opportunities, or things that might be technically technology related, but that are interesting to them and how they will run their business. And then we get into the recommendation stage, and the recommendations, you're going to go into this with some recommendations. There are going to be some things that you want them to do. So, updating their hardware, or this would actually be where you're going to talk about your price increase. It all comes into that recommendation stage. And then there are things that you don't know yet. So you might say, when you do the reviewing their evolving needs, there might be some interesting technical things that come out of that you want to help them with, and you don't know how to do that yet. So you just say, hey, this is something interesting that we can help you with. I don't know how to do that yet. I'm going to go back, sharpen my pencil, see if I can figure this out, and we can talk about that next time. Or I'll give you a proposal in a few weeks on how we can get that fixed, something along those lines. And then you end always with next steps. Here's what's next. Here's what's coming. Here's where we're going, and that keeps the conversation focused on the future and what's coming, rather than the past and what's happened. So any questions on that, Carla?
Well, the one thing I was going to ask you about, but you addressed it, is during the review your evolving needs, like you
Yeah.
as the MSP, you probably already have some ideas, as you mentioned before. You have some recommendations already in your back pocket, but then they may
Yes.
mention something that you didn't even think of. So I'm really
Yes.
happy that during the recommendations portion, you're like, hey, listen, it's okay not to immediately have the answer right at that meeting. It's okay for you to be like, I hear you about, you're excited about XYZ. Let me talk to my team and get back to you about that point, as opposed to maybe shooting yourself in the foot and promising something that either you can't deliver or you're not informed enough to make
Yeah,
a
and
decision
that's
on.
okay, right? You have to give yourself permission to not have the answer right there, and to be able to say, these are the things that you need. There's nothing else really that I get that. Here are a couple of things that I think there's some technical solutions for. I'm going to go back and see what I can do. And then you either provide them with a proposal or you bring it up at the next SBR, you know?
So I think like a lot of our clients or even a lot of, just listeners in general feel nervous about that, like feel nervous about not having all those answers. So one of the reasons why they may not do a strategic business review is because they are scared that they're not the experts in the industry yet. They currently probably serve everybody and they're scared to dive deep. So
Yeah.
I was glad that you mentioned that.
And a lot of people come to us and they say, "Well, how do I start to learn what the issues are for my avatar?" Well, this is how you learn. This is the conversation that helps you understand the deep issues that allows you to develop more specific offerings that allows you to then become more valuable. So it was through doing a strategic business review that Joe learned about the saga problems, and it was through doing a strategic business review that Joe learned that architects, when he was building an MSP for architects, that they had this huge issue with being able to charge for their print queues, or they couldn't access their files because they were massive files and the network wasn't fast enough. It was through this that he discovered that and was able to develop those highly specific solutions that allowed him to dramatically increase the price and make the architects and the lawyers happy.
Yeah. So I thought that was really good, and I really like the agenda. It's nice and simple, nice and it covers all the points you covered before. And I think this is a good jumping off point.
Good. Any other questions out there, Carla?
Yeah. So one of the questions that I've gotten here is like, how often do I do SBRs?
Oh yeah, I didn't address that at all, did I? So quarterly is fine. You can do it quarterly. You can do it maybe 3 times a year. So we have a plan. The way we look at the year, we divide it into 3 planning periods, and I think you can also do it 3 times a year for your client rather than quarterly. Um, and but the truth of it is that it matters. Well, you want to do it with a frequency that's relevant to your client. So sometimes if you are with a startup or some company that's going through dramatic changes, we do have one client who works almost exclusively with startups. And for the first part of the engagement, or for certain periods of the engagement, they need to meet with their clients on a monthly basis, right? Maybe even every couple of weeks, because that's how fast things are changing in the business. But the other option, so that just may be what the business needs is monthly. Some of your clients may be very static, and you want to do it twice a year, or probably no less frequently than twice a year. I think you really want to meet with them at least once every 6 months and have this conversation. But and 3 to 4 times a year is probably ideal, and then more often if the client situation warrants it.
Another question that I have is for those MSPs that are uncomfortable with being confrontational and doing this for the first time, like how do you think they should approach the business owner to schedule this meeting if they've never done a strategic business review with their client?
Well, so I'm going to address that in 2 ways. First of all, we do have templates, and I'm going to talk about those in just a second, that you can use to send to your clients. But I want to talk a little bit about the discomfort factor, because I think there's a discomfort because it's different from the way that we normally do stuff, and what I found is that when people start doing these, the discomfort kind of goes away. I think as well, this is not as hard a conversation as some of the technical conversations, because what you will find is that the client is interested in this conversation, and because it's not a pure sales conversation, because it's not grinding away at them on things that they're not interested in, it's actually a much more fun and much more comfortable conversation. So part of it is just getting over the fact that it's uncomfortable in doing it, right? This is just a part of being a trusted business advisor, is to make sure that you are actually delivering these trusted business advisor solutions. Um, and then the other one is just the process. We do have a process laid out for you, and you can go find that in our course, the Leave 'em Begging for More, SBR. So I named it, so if you like it, that's me. If you don't like it, it was Carla. And so Leave 'em Begging for More, and basically what we do is we've got all of the materials in there. We explain slide by slide how to use our slide deck, and what you should do, how you should have the conversation. And I think that this also helps with that discomfort, right? Because the more you know, the more prepared you are, the less uncomfortable it's going to be. And we don't charge anything for this. We just think this is crucial for everybody to have. And then people who go through this fall in love with us and want more. So we're cool with that. And so you can go to startgrowmanage.com/try SBR, and you can get the slide deck, and you can get the emails that we recommend sending. I have templates for active campaigns, so you could do that. We have our budget template, so you can actually talk about the budget, and that gives you all the tools you need to effectively run and manage an SBR that is value adding for you and your company.
Oh, that's great. I was going to ask about, if everyone could have the slides, but you already answered that by providing this
There you
amazing
go.
URL. So it's super easy.
Slides are available, so go knock yourself out and have fun with it.
So this is such a good presentation, and I gotta say, I hope that everyone at least has the great takeaway that they need to stop doing technical reviews and they need to start doing these SBRs, because I think it's a win-win for everyone involved.
I think so, and I hope that that's what people are taking away. Like, it's a great way to engage your clients. It's a great way to increase your revenue and your value, and your clients are going to love it. So give it a try. Go try that SBR course. If you have any problems or challenges or concerns, ask us a question. We're happy to help on that front.
Yes, we are. Do you have any last words, Jeff, for the crowd besides
That's
try
it.
the
I
SBR?
think we're good to go. We're next week. What have we got on doc for next week?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot, Jeff. But let
Uh,
me check my calendar. I should be a lot more prepared for these things. Hold on one
it's
moment.
always that question that you don't expect, right?
Yes, yes. So I'm taking a page from your book and I'm just saying, give me a moment so I can confirm with my team and find out what's the next one.
Let me ask my people. I'm looking at
Yeah,
it
let me
too
let
here.
me ask my people and we'll have a competition to see which one of our people gets to us first.
Oh, this is so interesting. We don't have it in the. Well, I think it's a mystery.
I think it's a mystery. I think the best way to find out is by just simply joining us next week for the lunch and learn. So that way
So
you get to be surprised and
so
then
it's
you
at
can find out.
noon on it's at noon on the 29th. And I
It
thought we
is.
were talking about influence, but I'm not
Yes,
sure.
I
So
actually found it right now. It's the power of social proof. So you were on the
yeah,
right track, Jeff.
so there we go. Social proof, which is a really interesting part of influence and how you influence people, and it often gets used at the wrong time in the wrong place, and then not used at the right time in the right place. So we'll have a conversation about that next week.
Yeah, and also, I just heard from one of our team members that there seems to be a question in the comments, but I don't see
Okay.
the question here. So, what is the So we'll do a quick drum roll. I don't see it here. I usually do see all the comments here. Oh, here it is. What if your client doesn't want to speak about their business issues and goals?
But that is an extremely unusual situation, right? We haven't come across it. People are very concerned that this is going to happen, and it doesn't happen. Uh, I think that Well, let me rephrase that. So it's not that it doesn't happen, but people aren't used to you asking about business questions. So when you go and say, "Oh, I want to have a business conversation," they may not understand it. Part of the reason part of the process we have for the SBRs to get people interested and the templates for the emails and stuff is starting to set that context for talking about the business. Everybody is happy to talk about improving their business. They always are happy to talk about improving their business. The challenge is they're not used to having that conversation with you. And we have had situations where you invite the SEO and the SEO, the SEO, the CEO, and the CEO doesn't show up, right? Uh, but like I said earlier, now you're with the technical team, and the technical team is like, well, this is really important. I need to bring the CEO in, and they actually bring the CEO in. Uh, so it may take a meeting or to get to the CEO if you haven't been having that level of conversation. But if you start having that level of conversation and you start engaging and you start having SBRs that are business focused, then the CEO is going to want to show up. They're going to want to talk about their business. They're spending money on you. So you are talking to them about how they can get more out of that engagement. Nobody doesn't want to have that conversation.
Well, I think that was it for questions. I'm glad that we were stalling so long because that way we would have never seen this question in the chat. There's a reason why we were stalling. That was all intentional, you know?
That's what it is, right? It's all planned, Carla, all planned.
It was totally planned. So, with that, everyone, remember that you are loved, and we are excited to see you next week at 12 o'clock Eastern to talk about influence. Have a wonderful day.
Awesome. You too. Thank you, Carla.
Bye.
Bye.